So, welcome to Mind Matter CogSci Talks, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of cognitive science through conversations with researchers, engineers, and innovators advancing our understanding of the brain. So today I'm excited to welcome Mandar, a PhD student in biomedical engineering in the University of California, Davis, where he's affiliated with the UC Davis Mind Institute and the Department of Neurology. With a background of computational neuroscience and cognitive robotics, his research brings together neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and engineering robotics to better understand how brain functions and what happens when those processes go off track. And his work focuses on developing computational models and machine learning algorithms that analyze brain activity with the goal of uncovering the neural mechanisms behind neurological disorders like autism and epilepsy. And ultimately, he's passionate about translating these computational insights into innovative neurotechnology and diagnostic tools that could help improve the lives of a lot of people. So I guess thank you for joining us today, and it's a pleasure to have you on Mind Matter CogSci Talks. So before we dive into your research, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what first sparked your interest in neuroscience, engineering, and artificial intelligence?
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I really appreciate your initiative and diving deep into the different research of different people and making it aware, like different people to get aware of what others are doing in the field. I thank you for that, and thank you for having me here. My initial spark in neurosciences, I always wondered how the brain functions. It's always intrigued me. So, as growing up as a high school student, I wanted to get into like medicine or become a doctor or like a neurosurgeon because I wanted to understand how the brain functions. But as I grew, then as I understood, the robotics aspects and the machine aspect to also like intrigued me. So I wanted to like come into the intersection of that. I wanted to come into the intersection of neuroscience and machine, which like naturally leads to brain computer interfaces, the way which we can like use the machines to like decode the brain and understand it better. So in search of that, I went and initially I pursued computer science because to understand coding and to weigh how the computer works, how the algorithm works. And later I transitioned into computational neuroscience by doing a master's in computational neuroscience and cognitive robotics. It was like a very interdisciplinary field, and it was offered in University of Birmingham in UK, United Kingdom, and it really helped me pivot from computer science to computational neuroscience. Then later, it's been a journey, right? Then from there, I got this current opportunity that I'm like working under Dr. Roy Benchalom in the UC Davis Mind Institute, where we study neurodevelopmental disorders, and I'm diving more deeper into how the brain is working and how the different disorders work, and we try to characterize them. And this was my journey into the current field that I'm doing a PhD now in neuroengineering, characterizing neurodevelopmental disorders.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned you did like cognitive robotics. Did you ever do like robotics in high school?
No, the kind of upbringing or the kind of background that I had was like very STEM related thing, but
Mm,
with not very advanced stuff like robotics was not taught. We were given a certain curriculum and we were prepared for all this national entrance exams. That's the usual
mm,
curriculum that happens in back in home in India, where people are concentrate more on mathematics and science rather than all this advanced kind of robotic stuff. We are not exposed to that in an early stage. If we can only learn about it in our like self-interest. But I was exposed to coding later into my life, probably
mm,
after my during my undergrad. So it took a while for me to like understand all these different fields out there. So as a safer path, I chose computer science in my undergraduation. And later, that gave me an avenue to like explore different things like
mm,
robotics, which I did later in my master's.
mm. Yeah. So I guess like you said earlier, you did computer science and then you studied computational neuroscience, and now you're pursuing a PhD in biomedical engineering at UC Davis. So was there like a particular moment? I know you said like you were really interested in understanding like how the mind works, but was there like an experience in undergrad? Like was there like a club or something or a project that you did in computer science or even in like computational neuroscience that kind of made you decide that you wanted like this is what you wanted to do?
There have been like there's like not one spark moment, but I could like relate it back to the pop culture. Like
Mm,
in the anime Dragon Ball Z, there is a mad scientist who has a brain computer interface that intrigued me. It might sound funny, but when I was doing my class grade 11th and grade 12, got to see this Pacific Rim movie where
mm,
people control the whole Jaegers with using just that neural drive. So these kind of things fascinated me. The way the machine and the brain come together and you decode the brain and you do a lot of things, right? So those kind of aspects really intrigue me. So my kind of inspiration comes from the science fiction.
mm,
It Yeah, it's not very like but it comes from science fiction. But I wanted to pursue that. I started searching. So one advice I could give is like do a lot of digging on the internet, like what's there in science fiction and what's really being done and what is the gap. So
mm,
like 50 years back of science fiction, even a mobile phone was a science fiction. Right now it's reality. Now everybody has in their hand. So this is what it kind of gives an inspiration. So I looked upon the internet that how I could like from a computer science background go into something like understanding and decoding the brain. So that led me here. So it was not like a one spark moment. It had been like a gradual process. That's what I would want to say.
mm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you bring science fiction into this and how like a lot of science fiction books back then talk about things that are like existent now that have been like developed. So maybe like now science fiction
Exactly.
books could predict the future. Yeah, that's really cool. So I guess,
Exactly.
yeah. So I guess to talk more about your research and like you're in the bench alone, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, lab, where you're kind of like analyzing EEGs and high density microelectrode array recordings. So I guess for someone who's kind of like maybe like a high schooler who has never heard of these terms before, like what exactly are scientists like able to see when they're looking at like electroactivity in the brain?
Okay. Yeah, these are different modalities. The whole field that encompasses this kind of study is called as electrophysiology, right? And in electrophysiology, there comes different modalities that would have the main basic thing that a human breathing does, they do with the EEG. There are like EEG on humans, EEG on animals and stuff. So initial my exposure was when with our collaboration with Dr. Ben Shalom Lab and Dr. Silverman Lab, they did a lot of EEG studies on mice, on sleeping mice, and also like giving mice different audio signals that is called as audio evoked potentials and showing the mice different visuals that is called as visual evoked potentials. So then study how the signals get manipulated and then characterize them. This was one kind of study. So for a high school student, it would be great to like explore what are the different kind of modalities of electrophysiology are that. Just look it up. For example, electroencephalograms that are EEGs, and there are like patch clamping where you can like where the scientists poke into the cells and get the internal recordings. It's called as the intrinsic activities of a cell. It's called as patch clamping. And there is like uh, MEGs that are like magnetic stuff that they read from the brain. And there is high density microelectrode arrays, which I'm like actively working on right now. It's like high density electrodes that are very like close enough to like read from multiple sites from a single neuron. So you know how precise and fine they are. So you are able to like get a high spatiotemporal recording from a single neuron, which helps you do a lot of characterization. And through this, by why electrophysiology? Because we are just reading electrical signals and then we are inferring things from them. So they have different modalities. So one advice I could give is like look up different modalities. The high school, they can look up different modalities, and there are open source, really available, already published data sets available on the internet. For example, a Kaggle site and stuff, where you
Mhm.
can find a lot of EEG data sets. And there are like problem statements telling you can use a simple machine learning model to classify it into like different kind. For
Mhm.
example, motor imagery is one very famous kind of a data set where a person has imagined whether he's moving his tongue or whether he's thinking. Like there are like binary tasks. So a high school student can simply pick this kind of data set and do the running of the notebooks and do
Mhm.
this binary classification task. And this would be an initial exposure. So one advice is to like look up for this open data sets in the webs in the openly available in the internet.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you because I know I also looked on or looked on Kaggle for data sets, and they also have like a lot of competitions on there which are really fun. And I remember like one of them I participated in was actually like social recognition in mice, which was really cool, which is like I think exactly what you're talking about. So yeah,
Yes.
I think Kaggle is
Yes.
great for like any level that you are, even if you're really advanced, I think it's great for like people to get
You
practice.
you can use the already available notebooks that experts have already developed
Mm,
for you, and you can just run them. So it gives you an idea of like how to use a particular data set, how to clean them up and
mm.
do
Yeah,
different kind of processing on them. It's a really good way to like get into such kind of stuff.
yeah, I agree. So I guess more in your
Yep.
research, I think your goal is to mainly develop algorithms that can uncover patterns and neural activities that humans might miss just by looking at them. So have there been any moments where some like this algorithm kind of revealed something that genuinely surprised you?
Right now, yeah, that's not hardly like a moment, but yes, we humans cannot manage such kind of high density data, right? It are
Mhm.
like terabytes of data that
Yeah.
save on like a monthly basis. We generate gigabytes of data every day. So this spiking kind of activity, the neurons like I to like just to like tell you about what the kind of things that we do is like we culture neurons on this high density mia microelectrode arrays, and we grow it on them. So it's cultured on there, and we are able to capture this developmental trajectory. So how the neuron is like growing and maturing on the chip is being captured. So it's like, and we record its spiking behavior. The neurons generally like tend to like communicate with each other, and they kind of form kind of synchrony. So we find a kind of bursting activity that develops over the days. So a certain control, a wild type, would like spike in a certain manner, and the disease types do show some aberrant kind of firing. They are like disease, right? They don't fire as good. Or sometimes when we are like studying an epileptic gene, they fire more than they are supposed to. So this
Mhm.
guys kind of gives us a baseline, and we compare those disorder genes with the baseline. And these kinds of we are able to like quantize them. So that's it. So my I'm developing algorithm to like automatically kind of like compare it with the baseline and see how far away from the baseline is the disease network are being quantized. Like what are the different problems that we have. The whole ultimate goal is to like then develop genetic therapies and see whether we are able to recover to the baseline, or use drugs and see whether we are able to recover which is very hard to do for a human being, because the sheer amount of data that we have. So the idea is to develop the algorithm to make it more optimized.
Yeah, thinking like
Mm.
manually dealing with like all of this data is definitely not possible. Like you have to build something
I
that you
try.
can train. Yeah.
Yeah, we try to do that. It's really really hard. So
Really?
we need to
Mm.
like quantize that
Mm.
and look at like have some kind of automatic way to deal with the data.
Yeah. I guess also in your research, you often look at like the relationship between brain structure and brain function. So why do you think connecting these two pieces is such like a difficult challenge, and why is solving it so important for understanding disorders like epilepsy or autism?
Uh, Yes, this is a complex question. Let me try to like dissect it. Yeah, the
Mhm.
brain structure and brain function are like two very important parts. Like, for example, it depends on which structure that we are like really studying. For example, in a brain you have, right, which hemisphere you are really
Mhm.
studying. Where is the kind of epilepsy kind of like happening, and the so that kind of, and each brain structure in a human, if you see, like controls a really different part. For example, the parietal, the frontal lobe, it has different functions. So having epilepsy in them kind of like causes diseases or disorders in different
Mhm.
parts of the body. So it's really matters on which you want to study. Right now, our kind of modality is very simple. We are trying to like take the mouse primary cortex and then culture those on the neurons and kind of get that holistic picture of what's happening in a brain. So we are like simplifying and using a reductionist approach to like have like a 2D culture and then study the different kind of neurons that are happening. And we are going neuron specific. In the neuron specific, yes, we are trying to classify the different kind of neurons. There are like different kinds of neurons. For we the broader category would be excitatory neuron or a inhibitory neuron. So they kind of behave differently in terms of different disorders, right? So it all
Mhm.
comes out to this brain structure and the different substructures that we have. So it really matters us to like segregate them and then study them independently.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that also definitely makes sense. I know um like for what I've kind of been working on, like we the lab that I'm in kind of studies like eating disorders. So like when they study it, they mainly study like the prefrontal cortex, but they also study like different other sections to see how like it might be related. So yeah, but obviously not as like specific as you guys, probably because like I'm guessing there's more of a relation with like the section of the brain with like autism and epilepsy, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess like I saw that one of your previous projects involved creating computational models to kind of better understand visual attention and the brain processes like and how the brain processes information that we aren't really consciously aware of. So what did working on that project kind of teach you about our brains and how we make decisions?
Yeah, that was an interesting project that was done during my master's, and where we were trying to like model visual attention. So it had two constructs. Uh, how when a person is trying to grab a particular odd one out. For example, if there are like three colors,
Mm,
two are of the same color and one is another color, and we are going to like reach it and grab it. How proximity of that particular color and size of that particular color, the similarity of that particular color compared to the other ones. Other ones are called as the distractors. The color of interest is called as the target. When you're going to reach for the target, how the distractors are influencing your kind of decision making, because our visual attention happens in a top down or like a bottom up manner, right? So top down is like you go by the prior knowledge. Bottom up is like you see the exact new scene and then you make decisions. So they kind of like fight for attention. And how this distractors, for example, the size of the distractor and the color, the similarity, if the distractor is similar in size with the target, it kind of influences. So I got to know that these kind of things really uh, influence our decision, and the speed at which the target is chosen gets what delayed if they are like very similar to the target. So our brain takes a while to like process those information, and I was able to like uh, dissect that and model that using a robot. So it was like a biologically plausible way to make a robot think like a human, or like not think like a human, like model like a human, and then reach for the target. So these are the things that I note, and I we got to know also through modeling that these two attention times, the top down and the bottom up approach, kind of like fight for attention. So we were able to see it when we were like trying to like calculate the latency in which the people we okay these tasks were done in humans, and then it was like replicated and modeled in a robot. So that was our conclusion, that these two mechanisms fight for attention,
Mm.
which was like really cool, like doing in terms of a robot. And yeah, usually I think like having biologically plausible robots would make us like create robots that could like uh, dwell and work in the real world setting much better than the algorithmic ones. So that's what we wanted to like find out. So these are the like lessons for neurobiology maybe.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's really cool that you guys were able to discover that using like biological robots. Um, did you guys discover like anything shocking with your data? Like I know you guys didn't really focus that much. It was more of like the computational model that you guys developed, but was there anything like shocking, like any outliers with like the results?
No, when we set out to do this, we were not really expecting any kind of like we didn't have a pre-notioned expectation of any kind of result. We just wanted to like create a model that could like get simulated with the data that we had recorded in the lab, which was done previously by the postdoc working in the lab. They had that setting. So my whole job was to like come in, and it was my first kind of like experience doing a real world, like a research kind of a project. So my whole idea was to build a model that would like simulate that kind of data that was collected. And then then we were just surprised that yes, we were through the model that we created, the model we were able to like tell that conclude that there is fight for attention, which is like widely known. But through our model, we were able to like verify that yes, the top down approach and the bottom down approach is kind of like fight for attention, and hence the delay happen in like making the target selection. So this was just like reaffirming that. It was not shocking, but it reaffirmed our previous studies and also reaffirmed the previous literature that was there in the field.
So I guess like you guys just made like you guys trained a model to be able to make decisions like a human.
Yeah, we can like make like kind of like go and reach out for the target in like a human way, in a human manner.
Hmm. Like, yeah, that's really interesting because I know like I was reading a couple of papers on how like there's like bot detection in like surveys, right? So do you think
Yeah.
if like what you guys are doing, like if it's getting like more developed and more people have like their hands on like being able to do this, do you think that's like a concern in like the survey, like the research survey aspect? Because thinking like I'm assuming you're saying that like the models that you build, like they can like take different factors of like decision making and like play it like with time. So do you think they can kind of like manipulate these like bot detection models? What are your thoughts on that?
Mm, oh, like bot detection models.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but the kind of having neurobiologically plausible robots is just that I think we humans have evolved, like it's like so many thousands of years of evolution, right? So then we are adapted, and we blend into our real world surroundings in a particular manner. In a similar way, I think having this biologically plausible robots would help them also blend and adapt to the real world settings more better than like a algorithmically trained one. So that is the thing. And about the bot detection behavior, I'm not really sure. Like I don't
Mhm.
want to give something,
Yeah.
some opinion that I don't know about.
Yeah, that
Haven't really
definitely.
thought about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I was thinking like if you guys are able to kind of train this model to make decisions like pretty accurately to like how a human would, like that would be interesting to see in like research surveys.
But
Um,
maybe, but then that would be like a long, long way to go. Like this
yeah,
would be a very small part of a
hopefully,
very big project. Yes.
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess one challenge currently in neuroscience is that like two people can have the same diagnostic but have very different brain activity or like different type of like symptoms of their like supposed like illness. So do you think AI, since like as AI gets better, it could eventually help doctors identify like different small subtypes of these neurological disorders and kind of like be able to personalize treatments in a way that like isn't possible today? Because I know like a lot of the times like there's different like types of autism, but they're like, oh, like the way you go through treatment is all like the same. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. So this one hammer hits all kind of theory doesn't work anymore, right? Because you need individualized therapies. So I definitely feel experimental data modeled properly using simulation modeling and stuff, both of them together will help us with the computational power of today, will help us achieve personalized models to like mimic a particular patient and then see the subtype, the category of the
Mm,
problems that they are having, and then help create personalized therapies. So this is one of the tasks that our lab is undertaking. We are like trying to like model uh, neurons through the experimental data that we are creating. We want to create biophysical models of a single neuron and then create personalized therapies, the kind of exact mutation a person might be having. Then if you
mm,
narrow down to that and then create drugs and therapies for that, then it would be like really easy to like simulate hundreds of patient models, right? It would be easier to do it on a computer rather than experimentally. So these are the different things that we are trying to do at the Ben Shalom lab in the UC Davis Health.
mm.
So yeah, I definitely feel there is like there is like I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm.
There is a way, but it's a process. Like it's like many researchers coming together and doing it. But I think it's not very far, and I think it's really plausible to have such kind of personalized therapies.
Yeah. I think that definitely makes sense. And I feel like as someone like an outsider of like everything of what's happening right now, I feel like in my like hearing that it's like closer than we think it is. Cause for me, like when I think about like personalized therapies and nowadays, I'm like, that's probably not possible. But now that I know like even like probably like Claude code, it could probably like like do like some sort of personalization using like like a survey that you fill out. I feel like it's definitely more plausible now. So I
Yeah,
guess
no,
finally,
no, yeah, now with
yeah,
the AI, yes.
yeah. So I guess finally for any high school or college students who are fascinated by like neuroscience, AI, robotics, or biomedical engineering, what advice would you kind of give them if they kind of hope to do research or they want to do what you do?
Yeah, definitely. Like one thing is being curious, like exactly like you are. Like try to ask more and more questions, and then try to like reach out to a lot of people. Try to like listen to their perspectives. Just listen, but don't take any advice or things to like as such. Like not everybody, everything everybody tells is right, right? So that you have to fact check, go back, do your own homework, try to like fact check, do hands-on work. For example, I gave an advice of this Kaggle repositories, and there are like infinite resources in the website. Do like in the internet, do use them to like get 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 hands-on experience, try to run these data sets on your own, try to learn on your own, and reach out to like different professors to get research experiences. I would rather ask you to like get research experiences with thing, because being in this research setting and then conversing with your colleagues will really help you, because just observing a researcher's day-to-day life, like how they are like thinking about a problem statement and how they are like creating an hypothesis, how they are planning experiments, being with just shadowing them, or like I'm telling an high school student, reach out to your professors. There will be like different professors, there will be like different opportunities like summer interns and stuff. Like go there, volunteer yourself, volunteer your time. So I just would ask you to be outgoing and don't stop asking questions. So yeah,
Yeah.
and you all got this. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I think being curious is great since like even if you might be interested in one, like for example, for me, like I'm interested, or what I'm interested is like decision making specifically in eating disorders, but like bringing together all of these different people who study like different things. I know I've like also talked to people who study like the smell and how it like influences your decision making, and even with yours with like doing personalized treatments, which is really interesting using AI. And also Kaggle data sets are also really useful, since there's like a bunch of topics that range from like environmental science to like social recognition in mice. And like there's quite literally like I think there's also data on like New York City like traffic or something, but you could really like just do a project on whatever you want. But yeah, and I also think immersing yourself in research is also really important, since I feel like school is really concrete, and all of like AP computer science A, like if you're a high schooler, is like very like foundational. I think being in a research setting really expands that. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of brings us to the end of today's episode of Mind Matter CogSci Talks. So Mandar, thank you for joining me today and sharing your journey and your research and your insights into the fascinating world of how like the intersection of neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and biomedical engineering. And it was incredible to learn how computational tools are able to help us better understand the brain in like a more efficient manner too, and paving the way for potentially more personalized approaches to diagnosing and treating neurological disorders. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge and experiences with us today. And thank you to everyone for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation and went away with a deeper appreciation for how neuroscience, AI, and engineering are working together to unlock kind of like the mysteries of the brain and improve, and especially improve the future of healthcare. So I guess until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and thank you for listening. So thank you for being here.